This is a Dreamcast disc and is for use only on a Dreamcast unit. Playing this disc on a hi-fi or other audio equipment can cause serious damage to its speakers.
Dreamcast, up to 6 billion players.
Welcome back to the stage of history.
Why don't we play together?
Hey, it's time to make some crazy money. Are you ready? Here we go!
Please stop this disc now.
Greetings, junkies. Let's get sweaty. My name is Brian. I'll be a host for this episode today, joined by Lewis, also from the Junkyard, and we are commemorating the 25th anniversary of Shenmue in the Western regions with this special episode, and we have a couple of illustrious guests here to join us to help us celebrate. And so, first of all, we have Matt Oliver from the Shenmue Dojo. How are you doing, sir?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm a little brain foggy, and so I'm gonna try to keep up as much as I can, and I'm probably gonna rely on you guys to really carry the episode today. So I really appreciate you being here, and thank you.
No, thank you for having me back on. Loved it last time, so I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, definitely. I forget the episode number, and I think that was that with Tom and...
It was Tom and Lewis, I think.
And James as well.
Yeah, and James was with us, yes.
Oh, nice. Yeah, definitely listen to that if you haven't already, for folks listening to this episode. And then we also have another guest joining us from the Sega Lounge on Radio Sega. It's KC. How are you doing, sir?
Hey. Doing well. Thank you very much for having me. Long-time listener.
Wait,
So,
have we
really
not had you on?
As a guest? No.
Yeah, as a guest.
I believe not. I have contributed to past episodes, like with little pre-recorded bits and whatnot, but I don't think I've ever been on one of the proper episodes. So I'm really excited.
I feel like an asshole. I think you've had Lewis and I on several of the Lounge episodes, so I think we have to try to get this about even. We owe you. No, we got to get you on a few more.
That ends today because I finally achieved my goal of getting on the DreamPod. So forget ever coming back on the Sega Lounge again.
All right. Well,
that was
you're welcome.
The long plan. Yeah.
The long plan, exactly.
The long con.
But we thought we'd give you a break from hosting for once.
I appreciate that.
And you can listen as we muddle through with less professionalism as you have on the Sega Lounge.
Surely not. Yes. Okay.
It's a point of differentiation. We don't want to be too similar. We got to give people reason to listen to both podcasts. So we're the scrappier one.
Good plan. All
right. Well, yeah, I guess as we had alluded earlier, I mean, we are here to talk about Shenmue and to reiterate, this is, as we record this, I think the North American release was about, a week ago, on the 7th of November, 2000, and then the PAL release would have been December 1st, 2000, and so I think we're just kind of recording this in between as a catch-all to commemorate both anniversaries. So this game that we all love is a quarter century old now, so how does that make you all feel?
Very old, I think.
Really, really old, yeah.
Yep, same. But anyway, I guess we could take a step back, and I imagine almost anybody listening to this episode is quite familiar with Shenmue. But I don't know if Matt or Casey or Lewis, if any of you want to just give a broad elevator pitch or description of what Shenmue actually is.
Dare I say Yakuza Light? No, I won't say that. I will get absolutely murdered for that.
A game about revenge.
Yeah, true. How do I... In a couple of sentences, it's really hard. Elevator pitch. It's an open world martial arts epic with a fully interactive world, amazing soundtrack, and beautiful characters with a story around revenge, loss, friendship, and development.
My God, that was amazing.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And beautiful. I noticed at no point did you say the word game.
Well, it's an experience. That's how I would put it. It's more than a game. It's an experience. Certainly for me, it was an experience, and still is now.
I think that's the thing with Shenmue that we constantly go back to on this podcast, is that it's kind of a game that defied gameplay as a concept. It did a bit of everything, and it turned a lot of heads upon release. People weren't sure what to make of it. And I want to just add to Matt's wonderful description, maybe kind of a detective-y kind of game as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cat feedy as well.
Cat feedy. It's just a game where you slack off as a Japanese high school student.
Yeah, ignoring your important exams for college, and you're just shirking away your future, and just for a little revenge, just a little taste. Anyway, this is a game that or experience really, and I totally agree with that. I think it's a game that kind of means a lot in different ways to different people, and I think we've all kind of come here having enjoyed and approached that experience in different ways, and it's probably resonated with us in different ways. And so maybe we can just go around the table. Casey, let's start with you. How did you discover Shenmue, and what was it that really resonated with you about it?
Yeah, so I actually was trying to find this specific issue of DC UK magazine. So I'm from Portugal, for people not familiar with my person. And so he actually had, at around like the late 90s, early 2000s, we started getting some Dreamcast themed magazines over here. Like, not all issues were published here, but we got some here and there. And one of the magazines that I used to try and buy was DC UK. And I think, don't quote me on this because I can't find scans of I have it around somewhere in my basement or whatever. You have to break the wall with an axe to get to it. But it's too much hassle for today. But I believe it's issue 9, because I think it was the one that had Choo Choo Rocket on the cover. It also talked about Jet Set Radio. And I think it got like news on like a preview or something about Shenmue. And that was really my first contact with it. I wasn't really aware of Shenmue being what it was and if it was coming soon or not. So I just saw something, and they had like massive letters saying free. And I think that was my first contact with Shenmue. And I really didn't give it too much thought. I thought it was like a little bit... I can't really remember if I thought it was like dark or whatever. The screenshots they used were a little bit like... They were too realistic, perhaps. And I was more accustomed to like a more Sonic-y looking like game, like the blue skies of Sega and stuff. And I thought at the time that maybe this isn't for me. So I just shook it off to the side and never really thought about it. But then... and so this issue, if it was this issue that I just mentioned, it was like May 2000 or something. So a few months before release in Europe. But then a few months later, I started seeing it like every time I went to my local game shop, they had like a big, like glass shelf with the game in the center, and it really looked good, like that blue box with like the two Dreamcast like GD-ROM cases together. That really looked good, and I thought, maybe I should try it. But what the hell is this game? Oh, nah. And that went on for maybe almost a year. So I think I got the first Shenmue at around like September 2001. So a little bit late to the party. That was the first time that I really... So I finally said, let's try this game. Let's see what it's about. And I never looked back. That's my story. Not very exciting, but...
And you're sticking to it. Yeah, I feel like it's just one of those games that maybe people didn't necessarily who love it now and eventually like really got into it. It may not have appealed to them at first, but it seems like there was eventually a hook that over time and maybe through attrition, it had beaten down enough people to love it that's just a very common story of fans. I think
that was the strategy that got us Shenmue 3 as well.
And I don't know if they did a good job of advertising the game over here. I mean, I don't. Maybe this is common for every region, but I feel like, and Sega was big here. So throughout the 90s and early 2000s, the Saturn was a big thing as well. Probably one of the few countries in the world where the Saturn was really, really successful because Sega was big. And they did a good job advertising Sega games and promoting them. I don't think they did a good job with Shenmue. So it was literally something I didn't know what to expect from.
Do you think they had some challenges differentiating it or explaining what it was to an audience that was used to the arcade sensibilities of most Sega projects around that time?
Probably. And like we said before, like Lewis said before, it's hard to pick a genre for Shenmue, right? Where do you categorize this? Is it an RPG? Yes. Is it an action game? Yes. Is it an adventure game? Yes.
Well, you said hard. It's free. Right? Yeah.
It's
for
free.
Reactive Eyes Entertainment.
Yeah, definitely.
That Yu Suzuki tried to coin.
Definitely something that we had never seen before. So I think, and I'm really sorry Free didn't catch on, because it would have been great to now be talking about like 25 years later the best Free game on a whole different context.
Yes.
Yeah. I know it seems like there's a lot of different ways we've pigeonholed like games with similar concepts throughout the years, or at least elements of Shenmue that would have been focused on as an entire project, like Walking Simulator or something, right? It's like people have kind of had some nomenclature to describe aspects of what Shenmue might do, but not really the type of experience it is holistically, right?
For sure.
Well, how about you, Matt? How did you get into Shenmue?
Mine's similar-ish, I guess, in that I had a friend at school. We both had Dreamcasts, and he came in to school with the UK Dreamcast magazine, sort of just shoved it in my face, and was like, "You've got to look at this game. You've got to look at this game." And I'm just going, "Hang on a minute, there's a magazine in my face, but hang on, all right." And so once I managed to sort of have a look, I saw the images of a lot of it was Shenmue 2 stuff, which I didn't obviously know at the time, but I was looking at it and going, this is like on another level in terms of the way it looked. Like Casey talks about it being sort of realistic in the way it looked, and that for me was like, this is a massive like deal, going from sort of your pixelated sort of graphics. When I think of like Metal Gear Solid, something like that, great game, great action game, fully voiced, all the rest of it, but it's very blocky in presentation, isn't it? Whereas Shenmue looked smooth, it looked sharp, it looked like they'd spent a lot of money on it, and clearly they had. So I was just enamored by the way it looked, the graphics, the characters, their faces, the hands. It's just like this is something I'd never seen. So that I think was probably the summer. So similar to KC actually. And then I got Shenmue for my birthday, so I didn't get it on release. I got it about a month afterwards because my birthday's in January, so I asked for it for my birthday. Popped it in the Dreamcast. I still remember this like clear as day. Popped it in, watched the opening segment. Wow, spoiler alert, dies, gets killed by Landy, and shock. And then my mind was like, oh my god, that was insane. Like that whole opening segment was just mad. In-engine, choreographed, the music, everything. So I was like, okay, this is brilliant. And I spent must be an hour going around the dojo, picking stuff up, doing all that, exploring, getting into that. Brilliant, great. I was enjoying that. It hadn't quite clicked though. I will say that it hadn't quite clicked. I was enjoying myself, but it hadn't quite clicked. I got out to Yamanose, went down to, I think it was on the edge of Dobuita at the time, or in Dobuita. And I probably played an hour and a half, maybe slightly more. And I turned it off. I was like, okay, yeah, this is cool, quite like it. But I hadn't quite understood what it was going for. Went off, did something else, came back that evening. And I probably got to, I think it was around the Heartbeats Bar fight. The QTE sequence there where he trashes them and trashes the bar. And I was like, okay, this is insane. It just sort of, the penny started dropping. And then when I started walking around the world, exploring the world, getting a feel for the music around it, talking to the characters, the penny dropped. It just, like, my mind just was blown, completely blown. And I sat there, must have been about 4 or 5 hours that night, literally until I went to bed. I was just hooked. I just kept going, kept playing it, kept exploring everything, talking to every character. Quite often not paying attention to the story because I was just immersed in this world. And that for me was the biggest thing with it. It's the first time in any sort of video game I'd ever played that I was that immersed in the world that I just lost myself. And then you couple in the soundtrack, you couple in the characters, the storytelling, and for me you just had something that was beyond anything I'd ever experienced. And even to this day I think games get close. There's some games out there have got close to doing it, but haven't quite nailed the Shenmue itch, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I know, Lewis, was it last year or some time ago, you had actually written an article on the Junkyard about games that attempt to scratch the Shenmue itch.
That's right, yeah. I love that article.
And again, I think the takeaway is that, like, well, no game really does, even although there are plenty that do aspects of some of that interactive world and living slice of life kind of thing, but for the most part, like, it still stands on its own as such a unique experience, right, that really hasn't been replicated in the same way.
I think part of it has to do with I'm guessing we're living in different times, so everything needs to be in your face and like fast, and you can't really stand still and just appreciate the view. You just have to look. There's a side quest. Oh, there's another side quest. There's a marker. There's something. So it would be hard for a game like Shenmue to be made today, I believe. And the ones that try to replicate it do so by today's standards, by trying to also do, like, giving you like dopamine rush of sorts, like introducing like different objectives and goals and things to do and look and go. So I don't think anyone will ever get close to, or close, yes, but not really nail what Shenmue did back in the day. We're not there anymore, I think.
No, I think that point around sort of modern standards is very key there, because Shenmue was among the first, if not in my mind, the first proper AAA game. So it set the template, which has then been built on over the years, modified, whatever you want to call it. But modern standards with like waypoints and games holding your hand a little bit, or a lot in some cases. Shenmue doesn't do that. It encourages you to slow down and explore the world and find things almost by accident. And games now don't do that. And I think some people look at Shenmue as not respecting the player's time because it makes you do that. But I look at it, and I'm sure we all do, look at it as that's exactly what I want from a game. I want to be lost. I want to enjoy that experience. I want to take my time and immerse myself in that. But gaming's moved away from that, and you look at lots of titles that have borrowed from Shenmue. A lot of them are a lot faster paced in terms of their action, their set pieces, and it's a shame actually, but it's always the idea of a Shenmue remake keeps coming up in conversations, and the one thing I always worry about something like that is I'm up for it, absolutely, and I do think it can do well, but you don't want to lose the soul of Shenmue, because I think if you lose that soul and ability to slow down, you lose what makes it special. But what it makes it special, does that sell?
Yeah, that's a good point. And as you were comparing it with like modern sensibilities and how we've kind of streamlined a lot of stuff, and everything is focused on convenience and getting the player a lot more direction over what they need to do and hand it to them on a platter a little more and cut out the friction of some of that.
Yeah.
What's also interesting is that even looking before Shenmue, or in like the landscape that Shenmue was brought into of games before it and its contemporaries, there really wasn't. I think we were also equally impatient for the types of games we were playing that were more arcade focused, action focused. I think there was more of a broadening popularity for narrative games. I mean, point and click adventures, I think, were always a thing. So maybe there was some of that. A lot of puzzle focused games that required a lot of patience. Those tended to be more niche, it seemed. Shenmue kind of came into a world and for an audience that was not really necessarily a traditional market for those types of games, which was really fascinating as well.
I was going to say there's probably quite a few games you could look through the history of gaming before Shenmue, and there probably are games that you could say, oh, that's kind of in that direction of maybe slightly cryptic in places, maybe a bit slow paced, but games that I can think of in that regard were more kept in Japan and never came over here. So yeah.
How about you, Lewis? What got you hooked?
Yes. So I've told this story before. I had a friend who had a Dreamcast, and I do remember him speaking about this game. He called it Shenmue. He's like, I'm playing this game called Shenmue. I don't know why. Like he maybe the thing is like no one else had a Dreamcast, so maybe that was just what he perceived the pronunciation to be at the time. But he
Shenmue.
Yeah. Yeah. Shenmue is what you make it, so you can pronounce it however you like. But he got the game. And at school, he'd say, I'm playing this game. And he's, I kind of was, cool. Just went back to, I don't know, playing tag or whatever you did at that age. But I remember he was playing it at his house once when I visited. And I think I watched it for all of 5 seconds and then was like, yeah, let's play Power Stone now. And then that was the last I saw of Shenmue until many years later when I was in college. And I was reminiscing about the Dreamcast. And I initially started playing Shenmue on a emulator, which was funny because you could, if you turned the camera the wrong way, you could see into Ryo's scalp, which was quite amusing. Like his hair would disappear. But for the most part, it actually emulated fairly well. It was pretty good. I had a friend who came over and I was showing him this game, and he was he was as impressed by it as I was. He was like, wow, like you can pick up the fruit and you can pet the cat and you can do all these things that are so ungame like, and the music's amazing, and we just like explored everywhere and spoke to everyone, and obviously had a bit of a laugh about the quite wooden but quite endearing voice acting, and like the whole sailors thing, and so it was cool to be able to experience it for the first time with him, and we were gassing each other up about how cool it was. And so I got up to about warehouse number 8 and on the emulator, and then I was like, right, I'm gonna buy a Dreamcast. I'm gonna stop messing around and get the proper thing. So I got a Dreamcast, and then Shenmue was obviously one of the first games I was looking for at the time, and I think I got absolutely ripped off, but this is what happens when you're impatient. I paid, I think, £45 for it, and this was about in 2011, 2010, which is too much to have paid for that game back then, but I was like, this is my only chance to play this game, and I got it. And this particular copy of Shenmue, which, by the way, the discs were immaculate, there was no scratches on them. Whenever you'd leave the Hazuki residence, the game would just hang on the loading screen. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced versions of Shenmue that do this, but it did for me, and I could never leave. Ryo was in a purgatory of his home, basically. He could never leave. And I tried getting the disc resurfaced. That didn't fix it. So in the end, I was thinking, well, I'm going to look for Shenmue 2 anyway, and someone was selling a lot of the 2 for £30, which was a good deal, actually. And
really good deal.
I put that one in, and it worked. So I have no idea what was wrong with that one particular disc. But
you bought the very limited Ine-san Will Be Worried edition.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm sure the game shop I traded it into weren't happy about that.
It's like,
but,
so like Fuku-san says, Ryo-san, don't go. And he says, okay.
Yeah. The game
and
over.
The game ends. Yes.
Yeah, it's like that. Isn't there a Far Cry game where at the beginning, if you just he says wait here, and if you just wait, the game ends. It's like that. Yeah. So that was how I got into it, and I just remember loving. I watched a lot of anime, and so it was cool playing this game where you're essentially walking around this Japanese neighborhood, and I really liked that. The best thing I think I've always said about Shenmue is a fantastic escapist game. I think I made a joke on a Sega Lounge episode where I said, "Don't be blue, play Shenmue," and I think it's a really it's a good game, like healing game. Like if you're feeling a bit glum, it's really good to kind of make you just feel a bit better and kind of, like I say, immerse yourself in this other world and escape for a bit. At the time, I was at college and I had to repeat a year, so I watched all my friends go off to university and leave me behind in my town. So I went to Buita and spent some time there instead. And yeah, that was how I got into Shenmue.
Nice. I think my story was, well, I had also, like KC and many people, I saw it very early on in magazines. I think Electronic Gaming Monthly was probably my first exposure to it, and it was mostly just a few screenshots in late 98 when it might even have still been called Project Berkeley at the time, now that I think about it. But it was, just a few bull shots of Rio in Hong Kong, and later on, of course, they would, it turned into a project that they'd split out to have the Hong Kong portion in Shenmue 2 and then focus on Yokosuka and the harbor in Shenmue 1. And so I was very keen to follow that pretty early on. And then I actually had gone to Japan, I think it was like spring of 2000. And so it had not come out in the West yet, but it had been released in Japan. It had been out for a few months already. So I saw it there and I was like, you know what? I don't speak Japanese, but I have been wanting to try this game, so I'm going to get it. And then I brought it home, realized I needed to mod my system to play it, so I had to get a mod chip installed, which luckily we had a store near us that did import stuff and was able to take care of that. And yeah, so that was like kind of my first formal introduction into it, was really just wandering around the town, not knowing anything that was happening, and just vibing with the environment, with the virtual community that it was trying to build around me. And I just remember being really impressed and immersed by all of the verbs that it let you do. There were just so many things as far as, the capsule toys and getting a soda and petting the cat and, rifling through drawers and things. There was just so many things that the game just let you do that I've never seen before in a video game, and not all of them, and in fact most of those actions really had no consequence or necessity. They were not like playing towards the overall progression arc of the game, and I just remember being extremely fascinated by the fact that I could just knock on neighbors' doors for the hell of it, right? and every person in the neighborhood must have just been pissed off at my Rio for pounding on their doors all the time. But yeah, just little things like that just fascinated me to no end, and it just kind of it made me realize like, oh wow, maybe video games don't necessarily have to be about like conquering something or fighting or platforming or beating a thing. It doesn't have to necessarily be an adversarial relationship with the medium that we're playing. We're actually just inhabiting it rather than trying to conquer it. And that was just such a fascinating revelation that Shenmue had posed to me. So
when did you get the US version?
Oh, I got it around when it came out. Actually, one of my buddies had bought it, I think, at launch, and he played through it in like a week or two, and he was like, hey, I actually don't need to hold on to this. Do you want it? I was like, yeah, sure.
Nice.
So I ended up playing that, and I think I played it a couple of times. That was like my Thanksgiving through Christmas game that I just played over and over for for that month and a half or so. It was definitely a game I got lost in, so I don't regret that one bit. Matt, I think you, of course, have a bit of a different experience as well in that you now helming or co-helming the Shenmue Dojo. You really got into another level of the community and the fan following for this game in a way that not a lot of people have had an opportunity to do. And so I'd be really curious about how you got involved with the dojo or other communities dedicated to this game and what compelled you to pursue that.
Insanity, maybe compelled me. I don't know. But I've been around the community, I guess, on and off for years. Like, I remember Shenmue Dojo back in the early 2000s and the website there, and we all signed up to a forum under the age of 16 or 18, and we were like, aren't we being naughty signing up to a forum and we shouldn't, and all this, that and the other. But I wasn't overly active. I was sort of dropping in and out, the odd comment here or there. And I think I sort of fell away, sort of mid-2000s. Still followed Shenmue, obviously, but wasn't active in the community. And then sort of around 2010, the Shenmue 500K popped up around that time, if my memory serves me correctly, the Facebook group. So I was in and out of there for quite a while. Sort of active, not active, sort of peaks and troughs with it. Obviously, in those periods, you had Shenmue Online and Shenmue City and all that sort of stuff. And you sort of sat there thinking, well, this is never going to happen. And then all the fan campaign started. The team knew the hashtags that they were putting together over on what was called Twitter, now X at the time. I started participating in those. And then, obviously, Shenmue 3 gets announced in 2015. And you're like, wow, the impossible has happened. And that moment, I mean, that E3 is, bottle it and sell it if you could. What they did there, I mean, it's one of the best E3s you'll ever find. I know I'm biased because of Shenmue 3, but I mean, for goodness sake, you had Final Fantasy VII Remake and Last Guardian show up in the same conference along with Shenmue 3. You aren't going to top many better than that, whatever sort of your association with Shenmue is, whether you like it or dislike it. So from then on, I became, I guess, more active in the community, interacting with the community. And then about 2018, we had the announcement for the HD releases on PlayStation 4, Xbox, PC. And the dojo had been taken over by Peter Campbell at the time. So he'd been around the community for years and years and years. And I think if you look through our community, our history on the site, the dojo had been through a very tumultuous time at that point with issues in ownership and all sorts of bits and pieces. But Peter had taken it over. He'd done his own Shenmue thing as well, which I used to watch his streams back in the day. And he advertised for staff for his site and just asking for people to run the social media pages. And I thought, do you know what? I'll chuck my name up. Why not? Because I've been around. I've quite interested in that sort of thing. I love Shenmue. Let's just do it. It'd be a bit, nice little hobby to get on with. Did it. Peter said, yep, come on board. Did some bits for him for a little while, did some trial stuff, and then was taken on properly with the sort of the team at the dojo. At the time, so it was me, Peter, James was already there. He'd been around the community for years, active part of the Shenmue Dojo for a lot longer than me. Flagship was still there. Jibby, who's still on my team now, he was there, and there's a few others kicking around as well. And then it spiraled, absolutely spiraled. So it went from running the Facebook page to then helping run the entire social media to then moderating the forums. 3 comes out, and Peter at that point chooses to stand down for personal reasons. And James and I at that point were pretty active with running the site and keeping things ticking over. And we had a conversation behind the scenes and said, look, if there's nobody else to take this, do you want to do it as a partnership? And I thought, because in my head I was like, I don't want to do it on my own because I think I'd sink. The amount of work that Peter was doing was insane. And so we had a conversation with Peter and said, look, if you want to hand it off, we're happy to take it on. And he was like, absolutely brilliant. So we handed it off in July 2020, and it's gone from there. And as the years have gone on, we've become more and more, I guess, active, entrenched in what we're doing and developing what we're doing. I mean, I've listened back to some of the interviews and things I did back in 2020, and I cringe now. I'm like, oh, did I sound that bad or whatever? But it just spiraled from there. And the more I've become involved with it, the more I've become involved with the community and getting to know people in the community. I've met friends for life through it. So now I'm sat here with James and on the push for Shenmue 4, and obviously Shenmue 3 Enhanced is due out at some point. We don't have a release date on that, but do you know what? I wouldn't change it, actually. It's hard work sometimes, and it's almost like a second job in some aspects, the hours you put into it, but I love doing it. I absolutely love doing it, and the fact we've got a strong community behind it just makes it all the more fun. And yeah, it's gone from there, and I've been doing it for 5 years now, which is scary.
Just flies by.
It does. It goes so quickly. It's scary, actually, that and James and I were talking the other day, and we've done 100 episodes of our podcast, which is mad. And we're like, wow, have we done 100 episodes? Like, what? It's that we started it 5 years ago, and just you chip away and chip away and chip away, and you just don't realise. But yeah, I love it. I absolutely love doing it. Hopefully we get that Shenmue 4 out of it, because that's the ultimate aim for all of this. When we get Shenmue 4, I don't know what I'll do, but
Shenmue 5.
I'll worry about that when it happens.
It's like a dog chasing a car, and then when it finally catches it, what does it do?
Yeah. And KC obviously said Shenmue 5. Yeah, well, yeah, hopefully.
It does sound like you and James put a ton of time into all of everything you create for that, because you just mentioned the podcast. I know you have a YouTube channel. I imagine you spend plenty of time on social media. You're on Blue Sky, Twitter, other things. What's that like pool of media look like?
I mean, I'm very lucky, and I'm sure James would say the same thing if he was here. We've got a team behind us who support us really well. I've mentioned Jibby, who was on the team for years. He does all the back-end admin stuff for the website, keeps that ticking over, so we don't have to worry about it. I've got a guy username Clunky Mage, who took over our socials for us I want to say about a year ago now, because juggling the social media, juggling the YouTube channel, juggling the podcast, juggling the TikTok, the Instagram, all of that stuff together, it was bedlam. Like, I had no time to do anything, and James was the same, and he's taken those on. So the X account, the Facebook account, the Instagram, the Blue Sky, all of those, and he's made them his own, and has given a really good sort of feel good vibe to our social media, which I don't have to worry about, and that's really awesome. But the whole thing there is, it's nice and relaxed. It's when people can do things, want to do things, and because of that, we're getting some really good stuff out of the people around us. I mean, there's others in the staff as well. Shensen's been around for years, going back to days when the dojo was going through some really tough times. You know, having that level of experience around the community is invaluable. And I mentioned other people that aren't on the staff team, but contribute. Stu from Shen Musings has done loads of stuff with us, for example. So we're very lucky that while it does take up a lot of time, the YouTube channel, I guess it turned into a bit of my baby, because I do a lot of the videos for it, and I'm a madman because I get some sick enjoyment out of it, I guess. But it's allowed us to focus in on those things and really sort of hone in what we do. And I think because of that, that's grown, and the community, I think, have grown to trust what the dojo do. And I know it's been around a long time, but because of the changes of ownership, you almost have to start again every time, and that's really, really hard, because you've got to re-establish everything, you've got to re-establish yourself, but then you've got to establish the community again as well, which is difficult. Off the back of Shenmue 3, I'm going to say this right now, I liked Shenmue 3, I enjoyed it. Yes, it does have its faults. But when you've got a community that's divided, that's really hard. And to try and unite that community around the hashtag Let's Get Shenmue 4 movement, and now Shenmue 3 Enhanced, it takes a lot of work behind the scenes, a lot of chipping away. And I think we're now in a really good place, and I wouldn't change it for all of the headaches it's given both of us over the years. But I'd be selling the team short if I didn't say that they are a massive support for what we do. And the community are as well, because they could turn around, stick the middle finger up at us and go, we ain't doing what you want to do, sod off. But actually, they've really bought into everything and have really rallied behind what we're trying to do. And there's other community groups out there as well, Phantom Riverstone, Shenmue Forever. There's newer ones that have popped up as well, like there's an account called Ria Retweets, Wandering Through Shenmue. There's loads of accounts that have popped up since James and I have taken the dojo on, and that's reassuring as well, that people are still in their own ways pushing Shenmue as hard as they can, and it just adds to that noise that we're trying to create around the awareness of Shenmue, not just for Shenmue 4, but for actually what Shenmue stood for and what it achieved back then, and what I still think it holds now, because it's a sort of a double-edged sword in that Shenmue 4 is one thing, but Shenmue itself has a reputation around wider gamers that isn't always flattering, and changing some of those perceptions is also what we're trying to do, and slowly but surely we're getting there. There's a long way to go, absolutely a long way to go, but it makes me smile when we get somebody come in to the Discord or come to the forums and go, I've watched one of your videos on Shenmue and why you should play it, and I played it and loved it. That's exactly why I do this, and that's exactly why, and that's exactly the payoff that I want. I want more people to experience Shenmue the way I did, and I know that sounds a little bit selfish, but it's, for me, I want to share just how much this game means and what it did and what it can still do for people.
I think your comment there about people's, the kind of not flattering opinions of Shenmue brings us perfectly onto the recent BAFTA poll.
Sorry.
It was a perfect segue. But yeah, for context, there was a poll that the... what does BAFTA stand for? British Awards for something. What is it even?
I haven't got a clue.
Yeah, it's basically like a
Academy. At the end, I believe.
It's like a British
arts,
film, TV,
theater, TV.
Oh, okay, yeah, British Academy Film Awards.
There you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of people voted for what they believe is the most influential video game, and Shenmue topped that list. And unlike any other game that could have topped that list, of course, people wouldn't let it slide if it's Shenmue.
Yeah, those lists are difficult, aren't they? Because there's always going to be A, recency bias in it. B, there's going to be a number of titles in there that could have topped that. I think of Doom, I think of Super Mario 64, I think of Zelda Ocarina of Time. I think there's so many games that did so much. Virtua Fighter is another one, bearing in mind that Shenmue derived from Virtua Fighter. There's so many games there that could have topped that list, so there's always going to be that element of it. So I can understand why people will maybe sneer at it a little bit, but also Shenmue gets clicks. It's easy to jump on the Shenmue rubbish bandwagon. Why is it here bandwagon? There are media outlets that do that, and that's quite easy to go and do. I think, given some of the criticisms around Shenmue, the sailors thing, the forklift thing, the pacing of the game as well, which obviously isn't to everybody's taste, but ultimately it's a game that should be in that list. Whether it should top it, I'm happy to have that debate, absolutely. And I think at the end of the day, it's a public poll, and people came out and voted for Shenmue because they clearly believed that Shenmue should be in that list. I was shocked as anybody when it topped that list. But do you know what? That's what the community does. They come out and they show their love for a game. They show their love for the Shenmue franchise and actually want to share that wider. It still makes me laugh that it ended up on British ITV News, for goodness sake. I love that. But there's always going to be controversy with it, and I can understand the arguments, but whatever way you want to paint it, Shenmue should be in that influential list one way or the other, because of what it did and what it pioneered. And actually, you look at games now and what games have borrowed from Shenmue or have been inspired by Shenmue.
And I think this list is, being a public list, clearly is not really about what game is the most influential, but which game has a more loyal and engaged community behind it.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
Really, if you're like, you could like pick a jury of 20 to 30 people from the video game industry and ask them to vote for the most influential game. That would be something different. This is like a public vote, so the game that has the better community, I would say, the best community, and definitely Shenmue is up there.
Yeah,
will win, and I think that's a testament to the biggest strength of Shenmue, of the Shenmue series these days.
Yeah.
Especially, it's community. Like, just everything that Matt said to this point shows what an amazing community the Shenmue community is. So yeah, I wanted to say, because people will probably be shouting at their devices or whatever, BAFTA is British Academy of Film and Television Arts.
Yeah, I was going to amend that actually, but
and then you have the different awards. So please don't at us.
We can at me. I just read the first thing that Wikipedia showed me. So
I will say, in defense of, it may be the case that people did vote for this list, but I think minus the two games that shouldn't be there because they literally came out like this year or like the year before.
Oh yeah,
the list itself, if you took away the numbers, is solid. Like, I could look at most, the majority of those games and go, yeah, they are influential. They're classic.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
You can't mess with the Shenmue community when it comes to doing, like, what is it, like
it's a rallying, isn't it?
Yeah, rallying. Yeah, you can't beat the Shenmue community for a bit of rallying around that game.
I think that's something that we've found out firsthand, time and time again, with all of the top 100, 200 lists that the Junkyard has done.
That's true. Yeah.
Shenmue fans show up, and I think that like you were saying, Casey, that it is really a testament to, I guess, just how united in a lot of ways, as Matt, you were saying, that you're the goal of not just the dojo, but in conjunction with all of the other communities that can rally around this game, really have a unique ability to laser focus on a shared goal, and the fact that this was one of the products of that is, it's just yet another body of or contributing to the body of evidence that we see time and time again for the community's ability to do that.
And obviously, that doesn't happen if the game itself is not special, right? It really, it's evidence that it touched people's lives in a way that, like all of us here, we're talking about it 25 years later. And at least for me, and I'm sure for all of you, I still feel as passionate about it as I did when I first played it. So it really has to be something special to have this lasting impact on people.
And to me, that's what makes it easy to cut through the noise in this, where sure, maybe the game has been historically divisive. It is not for everybody. I would not recommend it necessarily to everybody, but for the people that it resonates with, it really resonates. And even for myself, right, I have a lot of mixed feelings of really any game, but Shenmue also. But what makes it special has resonated so strongly with me that that's really all that matters. It doesn't whatever people might have to say negatively, it's not really, it's kind of superfluous. It's not, the community is there to show up for that game for whatever reasons they have, that it meant so much to them. I mean, that's the core of all of it. Whatever conflicting or naysaying or whatever that, I mean, I feel like that for me, it just makes it easy to kind of tune that out when you are that focused on the shared love for a game like this.
Yeah, for sure.
It just doesn't matter. People have opinions, and so let them have opinions. People still love this game. That's also an opinion.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And you do have to have that single-mindedness with it, because you are going to get noise and flack for Shenmue and pushing it. Our socials are very much. You'll always see somebody go, "What, that game that Yakuza's now better than?" Or there's similar comments. And I love the Yakuza Like a Dragon series. I'm a massive fan of them. Or they go, Like a Dragon's just a better Shenmue, where I'm going, well, no, they're completely different in everything they do or have set out to do. And there is a lot of noise around that, but I think the community is very good at shutting that out and going, no, this is the strengths. This is what this is what Shenmue does. This is what it means to people, and ultimately leads to people moving to Japan. James, prime example of that. It's inspired him so much to move to Japan and start a life in a new country. How many video games do that? How many video games can actually stand up to that test and go, they have influenced people's lives to that level of extent? And that on top of the game being the way it is, being that experience, makes it special and makes everything around it special.
I also think we're all around the same age. Maybe I'm a bit older than everyone here, by a couple of years or so, I guess. But we all experienced this game in our youth, and so that's also a big part of, at least for me. It heavily impacted the rest of my life, because it was during those formative years, and not just the game itself, like the experiencing the game itself. I remember you guys mentioned this before. I don't want to go back too much, but I remember spending a lot of time just in the dojo or in the house, actually, in the residence, just opening drawers and looking at things, and all of that level of detail that actually impacted me in a way that I actually booted up the game again, last night, just to get in the spirit for this show, and it all came back to me. It's really impressive how 25 years later, it's the same kind of feeling still kicks in whenever I play the game. So, and I don't think I can say that for many games. I can probably count on one hand the games that have that same, not the same, but close to that level of impact. And that I still have the same strong feelings for. The music, everything that I experienced back then really it also informed my taste in games and music and a lot of stuff growing up. So that was probably something that most of us share, I guess, in our experiences with Shenmue.
Yeah, That and like many of my favorite games were played around the time I discovered Shenmue, and so yeah, very much agreed, and I totally agree with you that it feels, there's many games like we've discussed that come close to kind of, games that you could say were even influenced by Shenmue, but there's always like that kind of lack of detail that Shenmue always seems to have been just incredible at. Like, there's stuff in Shenmue that you shouldn't really need to do. You shouldn't need to, like I say, pick up an orange off a table or like look through the cutlery drawer in a kitchen. You shouldn't need to do that. And even quite detailed games, I notice they will cut out that level of kind of mundane detail because it's just a waste of time. Like, why bother, wasting your development power on opening a kitchen drawer? But speaking about the influence of games, Cyberpunk is a game that I would draw to as a game that is incredibly detailed, and one that I really enjoyed, where it feels like the character you play as, the world is influenced by their presence in it. But even in that game, despite having like many moments where I'm like, wow, like this is almost kind of Shenmue level kind of detail they put in here, there'll be bits where like you interact with a character again and they'll just repeat the same line, whereas in Shenmue there's stuff that's like, I remember James talking about the tree outside Ryo's house that changes with the seasons, and there's all these like little things that, if you visit a place on a specific day, there's something else there, and people find stuff in Shenmue that if you look on like Shem Musing's blog, there's stuff on there that he's found. If you imagine the amount of people playing Shenmue, how many % of players actually found that specific thing? I love that, how much detail and time and thought was put into the game.
Yeah, for sure. One example of that, I streamed the game a while back on Twitch, and I remember James saying, the little girl that has the cat Megumi, I remember him saying she wears like a backpack at some point, like a school bag. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember ever seeing that. And we try to find her at different times of day while I was streaming, different days, to see if we could find that. I never did. And so he actually shared a tweet with me earlier today as we're recording this. And someone shared this on Twitter, that like a screenshot of Megumi with her like school bag, but it's not her school bag. So she borrows it from her older sister because she was really eager to start school like the next year. And you probably need to find her at a specific point of in time to see that. It's just an example of like how lived in the world of Shenmue feels.
Yeah.
Right?
And like, why would you bother to do that in like a modern game where people are, under time crunches, and let's not waste our money?
Well, it's that, and often the scope creep that comes from that kind of just like, let's do this because we can. I mean, that is what creates mismanaged crunch heavy environments to begin with in a lot of cases, like Red Dead Redemption 2 and Cyberpunk, for example. Like, those games do a lot to make their worlds also feel very not organically detailed and whatnot, naturalistic, but there's a cost to that, and it's a very human cost, and it's probably one that Shenmue, I gotta imagine AM2 staff also had a lot of issues throughout its development. I know that, of course it was delayed several times throughout, the Japanese version was, as it was supposed to come out March 2000 or March 99, and eventually came out at the end of the year. Right. So, I'm sure any project of this scope is going to hit those challenges. I think I remember it was either Suzuki or somebody else on the team that was recounting that one of the most difficult aspects, or from a troubleshooting and time sync perspective was the fact that when you had all of these NPCs with their daily routines, they were having a lot of trouble with them getting in each other's way and trying to get into storefronts at the same time, or somebody was trying to come in while others were trying to come out, and they were all just getting stuck. And then there was like a lot of troubleshooting and just tons of work to make that as seamless as it ended up being in the final game.
Sorry to harp on the same point, but like even the point that you've just made there about the NPCs, Shenmue is quite unique in the fact that its NPCs aren't just copies of each other. Again, I referenced Cyberpunk. I remember seeing the same guy holding his friend throwing up drunk, just replicated in like a different area, except one of them's got different color hair or something. But then in Shenmue is every character has a name and they live in a house and they have a routine. The only game I can think of that was similar was Bully, which actually had all the NPCs in that game were kids at the school, but even then, when you went into town, there was just like repeat characters. Just that attention to detail of not cutting any corners in game development is just we're not seeing it since.
Yeah. Shout out to James's Suka Pass as well, not just James's, but
definitely.
Suka Pass.
Yes, yeah.
And how you can actually access all of that information on your phone is if you're playing, like the amount of NPCs and all of their backstories and details is just amazing and you don't really need that, right? And it's like you feel like even if you're not there, the world moves on. People are living their lives. Usually it's like the game revolves around you, and this also obviously you're the main character, but people are just like busy doing their daily stuff, going to work and school and whatever, and like fixing signs in Shenmue 2. So I guess this is kind of a hot take, and it's on a whole different scale. But one of the games that I feel like did this well in a very, very different scale, mind, was The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Ooh, okay.
I think I mentioned this on my show once, and people were like, "What? You're insane." I am.
The floor is yours. Tell us.
I could totally see
But
that.
I feel like, especially Breath of the Wild, maybe Tears of the Kingdom as well. I don't know if you guys played those games, but you feel like that world where Link, the main character, is in, has its own things, its own people. You walk around, you like cross paths with NPCs that have their own stories. They have their own routines as well. And depending on the time of day, you find them, they're doing different things. Some are like repeated routines, some are not. There are different interactions depending on the time where you interact with them and find them. So I feel like on a completely different scale, because it's actually a bigger world, but less populated than Shenmue. So it probably didn't take them that long, and didn't meant that they had to do such a, I don't know. There was probably no crunch because of that, because of NPCs when it comes to Breath of the Wild. But I feel like I'm in a world that lives in spite of me, and not because I'm there.
Right.
So
it could exist whether you were there or not.
Yeah. And that's what I feel about Shenmue, and I don't think I've felt that about many other games.
I've not played Breath of the Wild, but like I do know a little bit about it, in the sense that doesn't the game kind of encourage you to just kind of do your own thing as well and be curious? And I suppose that's almost kind of similar to Shenmue as well.
For sure. I wouldn't say it was inspired by Shenmue in a way that not directly inspired, but if you think about it, a lot of the things that people love about Breath of the Wild are the things that we also love about Shenmue, done slightly different in a different context with different story. But that's it. Yeah, you can actually complete the game at your own pace. You can go to the final boss directly from the beginning, the start area of the game. You can just like go straight, go fight the final boss if you want to. People do that in like speed runs and stuff. Or you can take your time and complete all the side quests and meet all the NPCs and collect stuff. And so in a way, it is a little bit like Shenmue in that regard as well.
I would also say in the level of granularity, but just in a different sense, rather than having it be based on spatial orientation or just density of objects and interactive like things. It was more systems, right? It was intertwining systems where, a bomb could catch grass on fire, which could also catch a tree on fire, which could fall down and drop, the banana fruit hanging from it. So it's like you have all of these intertwining systems and physics and just ways to really surprise you and reward you for that curiosity and that experimentation, which is kind of a different approach to that, but at its core, having a similar effect of what many of us got out of Shenmue for its level of detail and curiosity that it had spurred on. And then also, I guess, if you're thinking about like the clockwork, like maybe more of a strict clockwork approach for, NPCs and them doing their own things. I guess you could also look at Majora's Mask, right? It kind of did a lot of that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. And people forget that, actually, don't they? Because, again, I think Shenmue sort of is the one that's pegged there that did it on a grand scale. But Majora's Mask, I remember playing it thinking the NPCs were a lot more, they moved around, they did things. Obviously Shenmue did it on a larger scale, didn't it? And actually I think maybe not on the scale of Shenmue in terms of the complexity of the NPC routines, but Red Dead 2, for example, the NPCs react differently to you depending on what your actions are through the game. So if you go up to a town and don't trash it and don't steal things and all the rest of it, the NPCs are polite, they'll say hello and talk to you. But if you go and then shoot it up and you come back later, they'll run away and are scared of you. So there's different changes there that obviously it may not be directly inspired by Shenmue, it could be, but that's something that's obviously been borrowed and evolved and changed as things have gone on. Cyberpunk, again, the world it's created, they openly said that they thanked Yu Suzuki for creating the open world back over at Gamescom a few years ago. So whether it's indirect or direct, Shenmue's DNA is in so much of gaming now that without it, I think you get there eventually. I don't think you don't get there, but I just think where Shenmue was in terms of what it was doing to where gaming was a night and day difference, and it was probably, I'd say, at least anything 5 to 7 years ahead of itself in terms of what it was trying to do. And GTA obviously came out. GTA 3 came out not too long afterwards, and was a revelation in itself in terms of the size of the world and things that it was. But it wasn't it didn't have the level of detail, the intricacy of a Shenmue game, and that game influenced open world in a different way. Shenmue influenced it very differently in the world that it was trying to create, the detail, the NPCs, the soundtracks, and the things that it tried to do there, and all the voices and everything else. So it's a very different influence.
Grand Theft Auto's funny because if you look at the ones on PS2, they obviously take a graphical hit in order to make their world so big. They look maybe not as good as some other games that came out on that system. But what's funny is when I played Grand Theft Auto 5, there's like little bits in it that I think it's almost like we've come full circle. It's like in your house you can sit on the couch and turn the TV on and smoke that stuff that I won't name. It feels like they've almost gone full circle, and they've kind of tried to add detail that may have been missing in those original Grand Theft Auto 3D games. So
yeah, well, and even then though, I think it's still a very different approach, with the distinction that the way that Shenmue depicts all of that detail and for every NPC and every object. And I mean, it feels handcrafted because it is, right? It was every single thing that was put in that game was intentional, and it was not algorithmically generated. There was no AI, there was no, or Gen AI. So the tools are very different to do that at a larger scale, but you're sacrificing kind of the intent or the handcraftedness that comes with. I don't know, that for me is what made Shenmue's commitment to that level of detail so special. And that you do see indie games trying to do some of that. I mean, I think Lake, you had mentioned that in your article. Yeah. Or we've talked about it actually, like in the past. Like that was kind of an interesting veering in that direction, where it was a indie scale project, but all of the characters had their own relationships, and you could kind of evolve them with the player, and they all had there were flavors of some of that virtual community.
The fact that you're kind of doing a mundane task such as delivering parcels, and it tells a story through that, basically. Yeah,
definitely. And you can even see that push-pull with Shenmue 2, right, where that was a larger project, but there were some sacrifices in terms of NPCs that were either repeated or just shoveled across the map, where they would show where one minute they were hanging out in the I don't know, workers' pier or something, and then you end up in Lucky Charm Quarter, and there they are again. It's like, oh wow, okay, they're a little pretty mobile, and they seem to go a lot faster than I did, even though I ran directly there. But so there's a little bit of that kind of push-pull to try to keep the project in scope. That Shenmue 2 wasn't really fully able to get away from, but I don't think that necessarily detracts too much from what it did either. About a few games that Shenmue had influenced, but I mean, and I guess what do we think? What do we think influenced Shenmue? I mean, clearly, it was not created in a vacuum, and Yu Suzuki and his team at AM2 all had their own passions and influences and things that went into it. And what are some things that you think Shenmue might have reminded you of that could have influenced it?
I've seen a lot of comparisons to the old 80s point and click stuff.
Yeah.
Those sort of point and click detective games that are sort of having a bit of a resurgence now, actually, as well, funnily enough. Because actually, it's very similar. You're Rio, you're walking around, you're talking to people, you're solving clues, you move on to the next thing. So I can absolutely see where that sort of point and click style comes from in Shenmue. Whether it was a deliberate thing, I don't know, but it definitely crosses over.
Yeah.
Wasn't Yu Suzuki influenced by a lot of like outside video game factors as well?
Yeah,
I know definitely for his arcade games. Obviously he was influenced by his love of motorbikes and Ferraris, for example. And they always say like if you're an artist, you need to go out into the world and see things to influence you. So
get inspired.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. His travel experiences, and hence the authenticity of the environments you play in, you live in Shenmue. So definitely inspired by real life, I guess, and his own experiences.
Was he big into kung fu films? I think I
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. So that's definitely, and that also feeds in sort of Virtua Fighter, doesn't it, as well? The travel and the studying of martial arts, that sort of leads into Shenmue as well.
Yeah, he was. I remember. Was it in the documentary?
In A Gamer's Journey.
Yes, in A Gamer's Journey. Doesn't he like talk about that a little bit?
I'm sure he does.
I think about
he makes
like
reference to some
trading with like a martial artist, like a master.
who broke his ribs.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's interesting. Another thing, definitely Virtua Fighter, like is there, right? It's like it derived from Virtua Fighter, but it's interesting how and different from all these other games we are mentioning that really focus more on the action side of things. How fighting isn't that big of a deal in Shenmue, if you think about it.
Potentially even less in the second one as well.
Yeah, you don't really spend that much time fighting. If you think about it, you can practice, you can train, you can spar, sure, but right, and for a game that's supposed to be about revenge, it's interesting how the way Yu Suzuki built the story around like this character's growth, like personal growth, is more important than really fighting, right?
Yeah. And the thing is, I think obviously Shenmue gets kind of, there's a lot of jokes about, the wooden acting and it's a bit of a robot, but I don't know. As I've been playing,
it's Ryobot, yeah.
Ryobot, yeah. But as I've been playing the games, like I genuinely do see that growth in him as a person. Especially as you get towards the end of the second game in particular, as it moves into Shenmue 3. So yeah.
Yeah, like the way he feels the need to say goodbye to people who help him.
Yeah.
And always, even though he sort of like speaks like a robot or reacts like a robot in a way.
I see.
I see. But in his heart, he's like, he always wants to help people and like do the right thing. So I think that also resonated with me growing up.
Yeah, he has like a strong sense of justice, doesn't he? Like he's always helping people out and saving people.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a graceful way to sneak into the other aspect of the influence, and it kind of works both ways, right? And that's technologically. And as we know, Shenmue, originally as Project Berkeley, before that, as the Virtua Fighter RPG, was kind of spun up on this as a Saturn project, right? In the mid '90s, and so it seemed like I have no idea how far along they actually got with the project as it was, but at some point when the writing was on the wall for that hardware, it transitioned to be one of the defining Dreamcast projects that would go on to be synonymous with Sega's swan song console, and I think that works both ways, right? When we think of the Dreamcast, Shenmue is very top of mind as far as the games that made it what it was, but also with Shenmue and its development and all of the technological and artistic prowess that it was showing off, it was clearly using the Dreamcast to full effect to do things that that Yu Suzuki probably would have wanted to do and weren't possible before. And so, I guess I wanted to get your guys' feelings on, how those legacies kind of intertwined, and what do you think Shenmue's role was in defining the Dreamcast as we know it and continue to view it today?
It's a double-edged sword, I think. I think, Brian, you touched on this in the technological side of Shenmue, and Shenmue 2 in fairness, what it did. Open world, NPCs, everything around it. That was the Dreamcast being pushed pretty much to its limits. I mean, we can all hear the Dreamcast playing Shenmue and that fan going mental because it's being pushed, the slowdown around Dubwita and all the rest of it because it was pushing that console to the absolute max. So there's that technological legacy to it. I think it gets some negative legacy as well, the other side of it, in terms of the development cost. I think every Dreamcast owner would need to have bought it twice, is the common conception out there for it to at least broken even. I don't know how necessarily true that is, but the development budget was something between $47 and $70 million, which I mean, now is a lot of money in gaming, but back then was unheard of. It was insane.
I actually own a Guinness Book of World Records from back then that has Shenmue as the most expensive game to develop as one of the records. So there you go. That's one of its other accolades.
Yeah. So you couple that in. I know that a lot of that was also into Shenmue 2 as well, which I think people tend to forget. But they take that negative connotation of the cost it cost to make the game and slap that alongside the Dreamcast failure. That Shenmue was the reason that the Sega pulled away from the Dreamcast. We all know there was a multitude of factors around that ended up with the Dreamcast dying.
In different times, right? Wasn't unheard of to spend so much money on a game or like a couple of games.
And it ballooned, and so there is that double-edged sword to it around it, but it's hard because I think the Dreamcast was such a special console to a lot of people as well, and what it did and the variety it held, and you go from Shenmue to Crazy Taxi to Jet Set Radio to Sonic Adventure to Power Stone, to Rez to Choo Choo Rocket. It had such a breadth of titles on it that while Shenmue is synonymous with the Dreamcast and potentially the top in terms of the technological peak of it, but I actually think you do the Dreamcast a disservice if you just focus on Shenmue with it, for how special Shenmue is. The Dreamcast itself and its legacy was actually a console that, unfortunately, due to the circumstances, didn't live the life it should have done, given the quality and the breadth of titles that are on that system. And it's only now, years and years later, that I think it gets its recognition.
I agree. You can't have one without the other, right? You can't have the good without the bad as well. But I do think it's heartwarming in a way that people think of Shenmue when they think of the Dreamcast, in a way, right? There are other really cool games, as we've had the opportunity to talk about on you guys on this show and when you guys drop by on the Sega Lounge as well. There are many, many amazing and even genre-defining games on the Dreamcast, and Sega did really push boundaries with a lot of their series on the system. But Shenmue really is like the flagship showcase of the Dreamcast's capabilities and what could have been if things weren't already if the console wasn't already doomed before it even came out, perhaps. And also Sega's willingness to take risks, right? And I think that's part of it as well. Like Matt mentioned Jet Set Radio and Crazy Taxi, and those are all like weird, crazy ideas. Choo Rocket, Raz, and Sega had the history of getting behind these crazy ideas and games and series. And I think Shenmue is also one of those crazy ideas in the way it was made, in the scope of it as well, in how nothing like it was ever done before. Sega were behind that, and I think it's still a testament to how amazing the old school Sega that we all know and love was. It's not the same thing anymore. I still love Sega today, but it's not the same thing. But I do really look back at this and like maybe Shenmue 1 and 2 were like the defining moments of that in a way. Not wanting to like undermine the value and the importance of other games, but Shenmue definitely is the pinnacle of game development on a Sega console. And I think that's also a testament to the brilliance of Yu Suzuki, who is criminally underrated and underappreciated still today.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of his games were the first of their kind. Some of the 3D ones were like the first 3D game of that genre, from what I understand. Like Virtua Fighter.
Virtua everything, in a way.
Yeah. Virtua Cop, would that have potentially been the first 3D shooting game?
Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, and it also speaks to the rare confluence of factors that would have had to align at that moment in time for a game like Shenmue to even exist as it does, right? It is such an ambitious game, probably one of the most ambitious games that has ever existed, at least relative to the time and the hardware and everything and the budget. And then you're looking at a Sega that was on its back foot, right? It had stumbled throughout most of the 90s. It was hemorrhaging money. It was just not. It was a company that was in dire need of a way to make its lasting mark and to really get attention for itself and differentiate itself from the more popular PlayStations and other things that were on the market. And so they saw Shenmue, and one of the reasons they kind of gave Yu Suzuki and AM2 a blank check for this is that they needed that game to really sell people on their system that could only do this game and a game that would only exist or could only exist on the Dreamcast by the sheer ambition and willingness for Sega to just have that laissez-faire attitude to give its artists and its creative teams full control over making the games of their dreams, right? There were just no other companies that were really doing that. I mean, they were just a lot more conservative. They were a lot more judicious for what they greenlit, and I think Sega really wanted to focus on making its creative talent the focal point in the face of the console, in hopes that the games that they create in their wildest dreams will somehow be transformative and invite people to really give the console a second look and pique that interest with these wholly unique experiences that just couldn't exist, not necessarily because of budgets or anything, but or technology, but just by the sheer attitude and mindset of a company that was willing to give them that freedom and flexibility.
They don't really have to do that now.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's interesting to see how things are a little bit like that across the video game industry. It's really hard to see like big companies come up with really original ideas and like take risks.
Yeah,
because it's harder.
They have to be researched and focus tested all to hell, and there are a lot of them are made by committee, or they're they have to prove that they're going to be profitable,
and they totally lose their personality in the way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's just such a unique situation that game I think exists, and that also contributes to the fact that Shenmue is unlike a lot of other games or any other game that's existed. For many reasons, both internally, creatively, and externally. So, yeah. Let's see, I lost my place a little bit. Does anybody else have any thoughts on kind of, I don't know, just like what you associate and really maybe thinking in hindsight, right? When you think about the Dreamcast now and over the last 25 years, or 26 years, how has Shenmue like kind of shaped that perception over time?
Yeah, you know what's really interesting? So I don't know if this is getting off topic slightly, but we learned, was it last year, that there was a Shenmue on PS2 and Xbox in development?
Yeah, that's right.
And it's just so interesting that game didn't see another system until the HD re-releases. And so for a long time, Shenmue was an exclusive for the Dreamcast, and I don't know, I do wonder what its fate may have been if it had gone to other consoles. Obviously Shenmue 2 was on the Xbox, but then you could also say, it was a sequel and people may not have played the original, and so that kind of didn't help that. But what if Shenmue 1 was on other consoles sooner? I wonder if it had maybe had more of a uptake from people.
I think especially with PS2, given the sorts of games that were on there at the time, the install base, I think we'd have been sat in a very different position. I'm not saying we'd have got Shenmue 3 immediately by any stretch of the imagination, but I think we'd have probably be sat here now with Shenmue being finished.
Well, I wonder if it would have had that legacy as like this Dreamcast flagship title. Because I tell you what, whenever you talk about Sonic Adventure 2, people talk about it like it only released on the GameCube.
Yeah, I don't know if GTA 3 released, was it late 2001?
That sounds
Early,
I think
earlier
so.
too?
I think I got it for Christmas, so one. Yeah.
2001, yeah.
Yeah, 2001. So I don't know if the audience, the GTA 3 audience, would have enjoyed Shenmue, to be honest, and the PS2 audience. Maybe, but at least a few people more would have played the game, I guess. I think they picked the original Xbox for Shenmue 2, which we have to respect.
Isn't that technically the reason that the US never got it on Dreamcast, though?
Yeah, they pulled it because of the exclusivity deal.
Tut.
But I don't know if it would have changed the things that much, but at least we would have had more people that would have played the game and would have probably loved it as well. So that wouldn't have hurt anything. But I'm not sure if... I don't know. I'm a bit more maybe skeptical of this. I think the Dreamcast audience, Dreamcast like install base, was the perfect audience for this game. And
yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah,
like we were accustomed to different experiences and stuff, and I don't know if I think PS2 players were had moved on from that.
Casuals, yeah. fake gamers.
Filthy. Yeah.
But isn't that to me it's fascinating because it was also so unlike what a typical Dreamcast, owner would have come into the console. Traditionally
that is true.
Playing,
that is true.
Right, Sega, made its mark, of course, as at least at that time, was at the forefront of so many arcade-centric experiences. And you have a game like Shenmue that maybe helps right or correct the maybe a perceived gap in narrative-focused games or games that weren't necessarily.
You can play Hang On in it, to be fair.
Yeah. Hang On and Space Harrier.
And I suppose the quick time events almost have that kind of arcade influence. I know I'm not saying it's an arcade game, obviously, but there is kind of that lineage there of the kind of button mashing, almost in the realm of Dragon's Lair, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's another genre, like another box to tick arcade as well. Yeah. That's a good point, Brian, right? I said my initial thought about the game was this is not for me. I'm a Blue Skies kind of guy. More I was the filthy casual. Oh my god.
I came here for Virtua Fighter 3 TB and Sonic Adventure. What's this Shenmue thing? Yeah.
But I think having the Sega logo on the box mattered.
Yeah.
And made me experience other games that I probably wouldn't have gravitated towards otherwise. So I don't know if that would be the same for people on other platforms.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, clearly
Clearly
Sega must have seen a deficiency or seen where the winds were blowing, where, Resident Evil and Final Fantasy and all these more narrative, Metal Gear Solid especially, right? These games were really starting to define the the generation, and I think they felt they needed to, whether it was their own internal projects or through external licensing, like with Capcom with Code Veronica, to really get more narrative focused games on the platform that would help kind of ease that perceived gap that maybe the Dreamcast might not otherwise have had enough of those games. And of course, Skies of Arcadia is one of my favorite JRPGs of all time. So I'm glad that was in the stable. But I'm wondering if Shenmue was also a product of them seeing those trends and being okay, people really want in-depth, progression-heavy narrative experiences, but we want to do something. We want to do that on our own terms, right? We want a project that, because we're just not going to follow the trends verbatim, or when they do, like with a Deep Fear or something that it's usually to try to fill a gap that they otherwise would have missed out on by a Resident Evil not being there. Yeah, I'm just trying to think through like Sega's propensity for marching to the beat of its own drum and balancing that with the need to try to fill holes that the market was kind of gravitating towards without their influence. So it's like kind of stuck between trying to follow a trend but also define the future of gaming themselves.
Which, when you look at Sega now, is a little bit ironic, because Sega chase trends like anybody's business these days, don't they?
Yeah.
And not always very successfully either, it should be said. But I think that point of doing a trend but putting its own spin on it, I think that's what Sega did with Shenmue. They took that narrative type game and said, right, we're going to do this, but we're going to do it our way, and our way will be the best way. And they threw everything at it. And while you can argue whether or not it was the best way in the long run, well, probably not. But do you know what? That doesn't matter, because what they've gone and done is created something that was handcrafted, developed with a lot of passion, a lot of care, probably a lot of frustration as well, considering they're doing a lot of these things for the first time as well. So those things in this game had never been done, which now, commonplace in gaming, you can do it much, much easier. But what you get at the end of it is truly something that is unique, that stands the test of time. And while you can look at the failed legacy from a business standpoint, and I utterly accept that, from a legacy standpoint, from a influential standpoint, for just what it did and resonated, it was a massive success in that regard.
Yeah, well said.
Definitely. I don't know where you go to from there.
Yeah, I think we can conclude and move on to the next thing. So this is a bit of a departure. This is kind of a little, I don't know, dumb exercise that we can try. Maybe it'll hit, maybe not. But I want to kind of go through a scenario where all of us, now you wake up tomorrow and you are an NPC in Dobuita. That's your life now.
Okay.
Cool.
That's just fine and dandy.
What are you programmed to do for your daily routine? We can start with you, Matt.
That's a good question. What am I programmed to do as part of my daily routine?
Yeah.
I think I'd be programmed to roll out of bed, get out towards the Beta Street, head to some sort of job somewhere, maybe in Tomato convenience store. I don't know. I always fancied working in there just for the music, I think. So working in a Tomato convenience store, having a day working there, then coming off after shift, going off to the U arcade, sitting down, playing myself a bit of Space Harrier, and then going off to get myself some noodles before heading to Heartbeat to get myself a glass of milk.
Nice. So wait, so at Tomato Convenience, would you be okay with just listening to that song all day, or would you have to like dig into the cassette inventory to mix it up a bit?
I think I'd have to dig into the cassettes after a while. After a few hours, I'd be like, we need to change it up now. But I don't mind it. There's worse noises in Shenmue, that's for sure.
Oh, nice. How about you, Casey?
So I would probably roll out of bed like really early for to run to the harbor to start not my job, but my important daily forklift race.
Yes.
Because I would be a forklift operator,
Nice.
obviously. And then at the end of my shift, I would go to the Harbor Lounge, get a nice cold beverage with my coworkers, perhaps. And then maybe just play darts until it got dark, and like I would catch the final bus home back to Dobunita.
Would you play Neo Darts or Dart 7?
Neo darts.
I just wanted to add, Casey, that I don't know if your colleagues would be a bit sick of you, because I've watched you play Shenmue on stream, and when you're on the forklift, all I hear is the beep, 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 beep. And once I was watching one of your streams, and my wife goes, "What on earth is that noise?" All I hear is this beeping.
Out of my way.
Heading across the harbour, it's like beep, beep, beep. Yeah, oh, love it.
Yeah. Good point. Just like in real life.
How about you, Lewis?
I think I'd like to hang out at Bob's Pizzeria. I always thought it looked quite chill in there, and I like pizza. So, yeah, that'd be my hangout spot, I think. But
Nice.
I also would be trying to befriend Ryo Hazuki, because he owns a Sega Saturn years before it was released. So I'd be wanting to to play this cutting edge technology that only he seems to have access to. So except like one person in Shenmue 3 who has one in a drawer in like a temple. So yeah.
That's true.
I love that it's cutting edge technology that only plays games from 1986.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I suppose also the arcade machines, would they be slightly ahead of their time as well?
I think they came out like a year or that year,
Okay.
a little
okay.
earlier. Yeah,
I'll let them off for that. Cool.
those are time period appropriate. Yeah, I think I'd probably do the same. I would probably do a little more bar hopping. Bob's Pizzeria. I'd have to say hi to Mario and get a glass of wine and a slice. But
Yeah.
I think I'd do switch between that and heading over for some karaoke at Nana's. Got to do that, and then I think my vibe, Yokosuka Bar, just is kind of my vibe. I love a good dive bar, and so
For sure.
I think I'd just be hanging out at those places a lot.
Yeah. I'd also hop into Yokosuka Bar once or twice a week, I guess.
During the day, I'd be nursing my hangover, just kind of fishing somewhere at the harbor, just kind of hanging out, trying to keep a low profile until it's time to go back into the city.
Do you guys have a place in the game that you just seem like oddly drawn to? So like when I was playing it, I'd always try and make a phone call at the cigarette kiosk, because I just loved the idea that there was, that's not something you have nowadays, is it? Like, well, at least not here in the UK, not got like a cigarette kiosk. They're all like behind, glass in the shop, like hidden away. But yeah, I just like that there's this woman who sells cigarettes out of this little window, and you can make phone calls right next to her that are potentially like secretive. But yeah, I don't know if you guys ever had that, where there's like a place in the game that you just always kept going to.
Probably all of it. I like to make the rounds, but I don't know. I mean, even Sakuragaoka is kind of a cool neighborhood. It reminded me a lot of the neighborhood that we had some family friends that lived in Tokyo, and we stayed with them. This was actually when I got Shenmue, when I was over there when we were visiting them. So there was something about that really reminded me of my time there. And then maybe there's this like an element of nostalgia attached to that, maybe.
there's like little things. It encourages you to do, like, find a routine in a game, doesn't it? Like, I think all Shenmue games do, but I think one probably does it the best, that you get drawn to it. So, like, feeding the kitten, I'd always go and do that without fail. I'd then head to the Abe store and pick up some chocolate and get a raffle ticket, and then I'd wander into Dobrita and I'd go, right, I've got to wait and do something, so I'll go and train or go to the arcade. And it's those little things that, I guess, sort of form those little routines in the game that you just do, and you get drawn to those routines. It almost feels a bit rude not to do them because it's part of your routine, and I think that's it goes sort of beyond one place for me. But again, it's just something that I think the game encourages, just sort of subconsciously, and you just start picking those little routines up. However, I was always a rebel. I'd stay out late and annoy you. I was always worried.
Look at the time. Yeah, I think when I've played the game, like, the first few times, I was always drawn to, like, different places you could, like, train.
Yeah.
Like in the warehouse, the park, like the place next to the arcade. So all of those different, even the dojo as well. So you can all of those places, and like making sure to not train the same place every day. Like get some variety out of there. Out of that, I think that's something that I used to do.
Just like going out of your way to kind of vary it up, even though you don't have to. You could literally go to the closest place. Yeah.
Let's run to the dojo because I want to train a little bit before bed or something. Yeah. But when I played the game on stream recently, my go-to was the vending machines, because I somehow were able to collect over 50 winning cans. I don't know how.
That's mad.
But I haven't finished that playthrough. I still have like the save file. I have like the very last bit of the game to go through the story, like the last day or something. I don't know. I think I can still get get the opportunity to get some more cans. Not sure where I am in the game.
I want that stream more than Shenmue 4, to be honest.
I guess we can just transition to maybe our final topic here, and that is looking ahead to the future of the series, if there indeed is one. But I guess we can just say, or ask overall, kind of more broadly. Of course, Shenmue 4 is the opposite, is the obvious one. But like, what are your general hopes for the future of the series?
I can go first.
Yeah, go for it, Casey.
I wanted to start with Shenmue 3 Enhanced. I'm happy that Eden Games is working on this, working with WiseNet to create this enhanced version of the game. And I really do hope it addresses some of the things I already mentioned, and people give it another try if they tried Shenmue 3 before and it didn't really click with them. I'm hoping that's the main thing I hope from Shenmue 3 Enhanced. I personally liked it for what it was, so I don't really had some issues with it, but I don't think this is the time. This is not the they're not going to fix everything potentially not great about the game, right? It is Shenmue 3. Get over it. Just it's a little bit enhanced, a little bit improved, some quality of life aspects. Great, but maybe take the time to, with a fresh set of eyes, play it, look into what it is, what it was trying to be, try to appreciate that, and maybe that will bring you back on board the Shenmue 4 hype train with everyone else, and that's what I'm hoping from Shenmue 3 Enhanced. Other than Shenmue 4, I like the idea that many people have already mentioned of like a kind of like Shenmue 0, like in the spirit of Yakuza 0, like a prequel focusing on Iwao's story. When he was not dead yet.
Spoiler, yeah.
Spoilers. But I don't know how that would fit into the way Yu Suzuki wants to tell the story of Shenmue. I don't know if later on we would get some sort of revelation into the past, into Iwao's past, that he doesn't want to spoil by creating a Shenmue Zero focusing on Ryo's dad. He could also go the teenage Ryo route with the potential Shenmue Zero, like the things like the tournament before the game that we saw a little bit in the anime and stuff. But I don't know how that would work. I think the more attractive idea to me is a proper prequel focusing on Ryo's dad. Not sure we'll ever going to get it, but I would be open to that idea.
I think that would be really cool. But I also wonder, what if there was another prequel, like a -1 prequel, that was you controlling, or that playing as Lan Di, exacting revenge for the unjust murder of your own father.
Mm.
And so kicking off this cycle of violence that and revenge that maybe we should think about a little more in depth later on, to see if it's worth perpetuating.
A little bit like Yakuza 0, you play as two characters, so two different
that would be cool.
points of view. You could you could have Iwao's perspective and Landi's, or maybe Landi's father. I don't know.
Be like a Last of Us 2 situation.
Yeah. Okay.
Could be. Pitch it, Sega. Are you listening? I like that. I really like that idea, actually. I've never thought of it that way, That's really cool.
How about you, Matt? What are you looking forward to or would like to see?
I mean, obviously, Casey's touched on it with Shenmue 3 Enhanced, and that coming out. Obviously, we haven't got a release date yet, and IN have taken it on. The expectations around it, I think, it's going to be quality of life stuff, and I think it's going to be a really good opportunity for people to get back into Shenmue 3, or for people who haven't played it for the first time, now have an excuse to play it with some of those quality of life things that have been changed, because I do think its success is imperative to what happens next with the series, if I'm talking realistically. If it sells well, I do think people will come back to the table around a Shenmue 4, but there will need to be compromises made somewhere, just because I think the market for Shenmue at the moment isn't massive, but who knows what can happen with Shenmue 3 Enhanced. I mean, Sega have finally sort of broken their silence on Shenmue a little bit. They recognised the BAFTA, obviously, and they did tweet out. I think we probably bullied them into it a little bit, but hey, it is what it is. They did tweet out on November the 7th to celebrate the 25th, and actually the amount of views, retweets, likes, comments that got was actually, I think I was saying it off air, was touching and surprising. Actually, the amount of people that were coming out and going, we love Shenmue, we love what it did, we want more games, we want more of this. Because of where I am in the community, we are, not to sound, it's going to sound a bit strange, I guess, but we are the hardcore of the hardcore at Shenmue Dojo and the Discord and the people like that. So we're almost, in some respects, a little bit deaf to what's outside of the hardcore. Has that noise resonated to the more casual Shenmue fans, the more casual Sega fans? And seeing that response, actually, I sat there and I smiled and I thought, yeah, that is coming out, and actually maybe it will be food for thought for Sega. I don't know. They've talked about wanting to exploit the IPs with sort of niche audiences that are out there. Well, Shenmue is exactly that. But we'll see. I mean, maybe I'm being unrealistic with Sega. Probably, and I accept it. But I would love Sega to get back on board and do something with it. They may do. They may have that conversation, and then ultimately, it's just the future of the series is just trying to push it forward. Shenmue 0 would be great. I'd love it. Shenmue 4, obviously. Shenmue 5, I think at the moment we're probably pushing our luck, but who knows? Who really knows that could happen? But also, I think to give people an opportunity to experience it and enjoy it. That's the big thing here, that the future of the series is almost secured in its legacy to build the foundations to push forward. If we do that, I think anything can happen.
Yeah, well said. Now, I guess we can kind of talk a little bit more about Shenmue 4 at this point. It's a game that obviously the whole community would love to see, but I think there's probably a variety of things it could accomplish or goals it could set out to be, whether it's like a continuation of the reduced scope of that Shenmue 3 had, just given that out of necessity for budget purposes, or with an increased budget that might help elevate it towards some of the ambitions that the original two games had. If Sega was involved, or other publishers, maybe even Sony or somebody, and then the dichotomy of whether it should stand alone as its own story and what that might look like, or if maybe we just want to not press our luck and try to conclude it then and there, without worrying about whether we have to have the same let's get Shenmue 5 campaign after. There's a lot of different ways this can go, I guess, is my point. And so I'm curious, like, say Shenmue 4 does happen, what would you all like to see from that experience? What would you like it to accomplish?
I mean, straight up for me, it's got to address the biggest weakness from Shenmue 3, which is its story content. It's got to push the story forward. If it doesn't, and they're planning on getting a Shenmue 5, I think we will have a very tall order to get the community re-engaged again. If it does nail the story and it pushes things forward, you get those big revelations and whatever, and for argument's sake, say they're pushing for Shenmue 5, I think then you've got a rejuvenated community behind it that will buy into what we're trying to do, and you can sell the fifth game as the final installment and all the rest of it. I do think you'd probably get it over the line, but it has to. And I've said this for years, and I've said this to anyone who has any sort of influence at Wisenet, anywhere around Shenmue. They can't mess about with the story. They have to nail it, even if it means using the Shenmue 3 engine, chucking it in Unreal 5, polishing it up, and just using what's there as a basis. Smash the story out, get it good there, and then worry about the rest of it. Do that, you've got the community on board, and you've got that behind you. If you don't, I think we're really in trouble.
I think what you said there, Matt, actually just made me think just right now how much ground the first two games cover. Like, they feel like you're playing like a long TV series. The amount of ground Rio covers, especially in 2, like he goes all over the place.
Yeah.
And then on 3, it just plods along, and it doesn't feel like much happens. I actually did quite like 3. I actually thought it was particularly very good looking game, especially in the first area, like especially at night time, like when the sun would set. It's like really good looking game. But I know this is a bit kind of surface level, but like I kind of want to see Sega branding coming back. I know we had like the kind of random Sega Saturn that made an appearance, but I suppose it's just one of those things I miss, and it's like I'm seeing Yakuza getting all these cool arcade games put in like the new installments, and it's like that's Shenmue's thing, man. Like, let them have some. Don't get me wrong, they did some like fun kind of substitutes, but it's like when you're going for the capsule toys, they're just kind of they're not really anything interesting. Like, I want to get like Sonic characters instead of like Chocobo Penguin chicken thing. I can't remember what it was now. There's like a character that's a chicken. Chibo-chan, yeah.
Oh yeah, Chibo-chan.
It's not a penguin. What am I on about? But so that, and then I would like to see Shenmue 4 finish the series. I wish that wasn't the case. I always kept in mind this idea that Yu Suzuki had of he wanted to do so many different games, and I love the idea that, potentially if they were on Dreamcast, they would have interacted with each other if it had stayed on that console, and fed into one another, and like things would affect things in the future. I heard that once about it. I thought that sounded fascinating. Obviously, we're not going to have that. I kind of just want 4 to finish the series more for the sake of shutting people up as far as like the haters. But you know, if Yu Suzuki was like, I have endless money and time, let's face it, the guy's getting old now. Yeah, I kind of want to see the end of the story, but I obviously don't want it to be rushed. So yeah, whether that's in 4 or 5, I'll have to see how that pans out.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, right? If you really want the story to be finished in 4, you probably need to be ready for it to be like a shortened, abridged version of his idea. Even with 5, perhaps that would have to be the case. I wouldn't mind having like what they did, like because the Hong Kong trip, or the trip to Hong Kong from Japan to Hong Kong, was supposed to be a chapter, right, Matt? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't see it in the game. Like a comic book, right? That could, with that story. I wouldn't mind them doing something like that to like bridge the gap between parts of the game or parts of the story that you don't see in the game. But I'd much rather like have 4 be advance the story in a meaningful way, and then have 5 be the final game and be advertised as that. But I don't think. I mean, I'm being cynical again. I hope that can happen, but I don't think. But I wouldn't mind. Let's say it like that. I wouldn't mind Yu Suzuki going with 4 as like the conclusion of the story, as a way to conclude the story. Even if we then get, like, for example, a novel version of the story that includes a lot of details you don't see in game, like a more fleshed out version in writing or something like that. Obviously, the anime would be a nice way to do that as well, but that's been cancelled. So that's really silly. But I would. One thing you mentioned the story. I already talked about that as well. But one thing that I wanted to see is what I think is the second biggest flaw in Shenmue 3, which is like the fighting system. I would love to see the return of the Virtua Fighter like fighting system to Shenmue, and again, that would probably mean Sega would have to get more involved with the game. So if they're doing that, why not, like you said, Lewis, bring back the whole Sega branding? Mm-hmm. So that would be the ideal situation. But I really enjoyed Shenmue 3, and I'm really looking forward to Shenmue 3 Enhanced. So I don't think I'm not bothered by the game as many people seem to be. But it was also a Kickstarter game, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of what they had to do with that game was to give back to the Kickstarter pledgers, and having a budget dedicated exclusively to realizing Yu Suzuki's vision of the story of Shenmue 4 would be the ideal situation, without like having to fulfill rewards and pledges and wherever. So I would much rather have Yu Suzuki dedicated to doing a game where the budget goes solely into game development. I don't mind them reusing the Shenmue 3 engine, maybe polish it up a bit. I don't care, to be honest. I think the game looks great, so I'm perfectly happy with them just like pushing on with the story, which is more important to me than really anything else. And I think like a little world building here and there would be nice, but mostly, like Matt said, just move on with the story and give us more so people can get excited and get behind the push for a potential Shenmue 5 and a potential conclusion of the story in Shenmue 5.
Yeah. I think really there's only one thing I'd want from Shenmue 4, and I think that's just for it to free itself from the expectations of its legacy a little bit. I would love to see it do something new or different that surprises all of us. Mainly because I think that's what made, for me, Shenmue 1 and 2 so special, is that they were so forward thinking and they were so like, they just redefined my perspective of like what are my expectations for what the medium was capable of and how we could engage with it. And I would love Shenmue 4 to kind of take on that mantle, maybe with a more of a, you could almost double down on the indie side of it and bring in people who have a lot of those ideas to supplement what Yu Suzuki would want to do with his vision, or maybe he'll be inspired by something else that's completely out of left field, that might help make that a really surprising, interesting experience. I think one of the challenges that Shenmue 3 had was that it felt like it had to pay service to the people who are already fans of it, and so it was living up to like very specific expectations that kind of led it to be a little more self-referential than I was hoping it would be. And so I'd love to see Shenmue 4 kind of break those moorings a bit.
Yeah, it was so long since the game that came before it. It's like you go from the two original ones that were so groundbreaking, and then all this time passes. And that gameplay is sort of, the gameplay of Shenmue 3 is still kind of similar to what we saw back then. And it's, it wasn't going to, it's like, how are they going to make it the same for the fans? Because that's the gameplay they know, or is it going to try and do everything new? And they were between a rock and a hard place with that one, I think.
Yeah, and being a Kickstarter, kind of being beholden to a base of people who are funding the game who were already fans of the originals that just wanted more of that, a continuation of what they already loved. You could kind of see the pressure they were under to deliver something a little more in line with, at least with what they had done before, but then also limited to tools in a reduced scope and budget that wouldn't necessarily allow them to recapture all of the magic that the originals drew from their technical and artistic achievements that at the time didn't have as many restrictions, because they had $40 to $75 million behind it to make those two games. So it's just it's a difficult balance for sure. Not to be a downer, but maybe there's a future where Shenmue 4 never happens. And so I think we can kind of conclude. I'm sorry.
How dare you?
But if that reality comes to pass, how would you all like to see the series be remembered? What would be your main takeaway for its legacy?
I would say how it impacted people's lives. We talked about this at length today, but how it was really trying to do something different, and it was successful at that by creating something that we had never seen before, and how it actually changed our lives in a lot of different ways, obviously, some more than others. Some people moved to Japan, like James, we mentioned before. Others dedicate probably more time than they should to the series by being the co-owners of a big website and community. Others record podcasts whenever they can to talk about the series. So I think that's the biggest legacy of Shenmue, and not to be like too romantic about it, but I think it's the community and the people that played the game and were impacted by the series. I think that's the biggest strength still. And as time moves on, I think the community will become even more important for us to eventually get another game and another game. So even if that doesn't happen, the community is definitely the biggest thing that I think everyone will remember, and how people really love this game or these games and got behind them and tweeted every month and like tried to get Sega to get behind the game again and all of that.
I've said this before, but like just the fact that Shenmue 3 happened is a testament to how powerful that community is. And I think I said this before because I think Shenmue Dojo, you did a video where you got a few of us kind of talking about our experiences with Shenmue, and I sort of reiterate what I said there is like, you know, if you ever think, you know, this game sequel I really want is never going to come out, then, you know, only look to Shenmue 3. I mean, at some points it was never going to happen, right? We never thought it was ever going to happen, and it did. So yeah, just the power of community, for sure.
I think to add to that as well is it's the legacy of what a video game can do, that it goes beyond just being a game. It becomes an experience. It becomes something more. It molds people's lives. It molds people's values. It molds the community into something that is a source of strength for not just the game, but I think for the people within it. And that, how many games can say that it's done that and been that powerful? There aren't many. So I mean, if 4 never happens, and I hope to God it obviously it does happen, and when we get there and we get this thing finished. But if it doesn't, then I'd love Shenmue to be remembered for not just its technological feats, but actually what it's managed to achieve in transcending media, in transcending people's lives, and having such an impact.
Thank you all for joining for this chat, and I had a lot of fun. Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Matt. Thanks, Lewis. I guess on that note, we can kind of just go ahead and say where people can find you, social media wise, or projects, or what you want to promote. The floor is all yours. Maybe Casey, we'll start with you.
Sure. I'll be quick. So you can find me over at the Sega Lounge. The SegaLounge.com is the best place to find all the previous episodes, including, as we're recording, the latest one with Brian.
Oh,
for example.
Really?
And, yeah. Talking about Blue Stinger. Yeah, it's this week's episode. I don't know when this is airing, but at the time of recording, that's the latest episode. But including Shenmue content as well, interviews and specials we've done. So if you're interested in that, the SegaLounge.com, we're over on YouTube as well. And you can, I'm not really big into social media these days, but you can find us on X and Blue Sky. Blue Sky is easy, at the SegaLounge.com, X at the Sega Lounge.
How about you, Lewis?
Yeah, you could find me on X and Blue Sky at LewisJFC.
Nice. And Matt?
So Shenmue Dojo, we can be found on shenmuedojo.com. That's the website, the forums, the media section, and all the bits in this history for the franchise is all there. Over on X, it's Shenmue_Dojo, Facebook Shenmue Dojo, Instagram is Shenmue_Dojo, YouTube where streams, videos, and everything else in between is Shenmue Dojo VOD. Lots of content, lots of things coming out. Keep an eye out. December 19th, Dreams of Saturn 3.0 is due to come out. It's the fan game by George Kitchen, which we cover every year. So that'll be our Christmas stream as well. So we're going to debut that on stream. I'm looking forward to that one.
Oh, sweet. I'm just, I don't really do a lot of social media. I'm just on Blue Sky, I think, very seldomly am I on that, but at Jet Brian Radio. And then Lewis, we also have, a whole bunch of stuff for the Dreamcast Junkyard. You want to go through what all that's about?
Yeah, we are on all the social medias. Well, not all of them, but most of them. Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram. We're not on Instagram. Sorry, guys. We're not on Instagram. We are on Facebook, which is technically owned by the same people. But yeah, we're on Facebook. We have a Facebook group. And yeah, if you want to go to the website, which is www.thedreamcastjunkyard.co.uk, links to all those are on the sidebar. So yeah, that's probably the easiest way to find them.
Nice. And we have a Patreon as well, right?
Yeah, we have a Patreon. We're currently at our target as far as like our monetary goal with that. It's basically all goes towards hosting, the website, the podcast, and all the other things that require money to keep the Junkyard coming your way. And yeah, we have some Patreons we want to shout out. We have a new Patreon called KC. I'm not sure who that guy is, but thank you, KC, for your generous donation. We've also got David SM, Douglas Wright, TY Guy, Gary Meacher, Anthony Harrop, Your Mom, Lee Sparks, Thomas Wergler, Wombat, Ross Kilgariff, Willis Alvey, N. Sanders, James B., Derek Pascarella, Pizza Hotline, some schmuck called Lewis, Lawrence, and Tom. There we go.
Shout out to your mom.
Well, thank you all. Again, I think I'm fading at this point. So does anybody want to take us home?
You have a curfew. Ine-san wants you back home.
This is the Dreamcast disc. 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 And is for use only on a Dreamcast unit. Playing this disc on a hi-fi or other audio equipment can cause serious damage to its speakers. Please stop this disc now.